Picture this. You are standing at the beach. The sun is out. Waves are politely slapping the shore, and someone nearby is aggressively applying sunscreen like they are frosting a cake. Seagulls scream. Kids dig holes they absolutely will not fill back in, and the ocean looks friendly enough. Blue, calm, inviting. It feels familiar. It feels safe. It feels like the kind of place where the biggest danger is stepping on something squishy and questioning your life choices. But that peaceful surface is one of the greatest visual lies on earth. Because directly beneath your toes is not just water. It is a stacked, layered world that grows darker, stranger, and more hostile the farther down you go, until reality itself starts behaving like it forgot the rules. If this calm journey through ocean zones that feel more alien than outer space helps you relax tonight, please like the video, subscribe to the Deep Sea documentary channel, and leave a comment sharing when and where you're and listening, so this gentle science can reach more people who fall asleep to the mysteries of the deep. We tend to think of alien worlds as distant planets, places with purple skies, floating rocks, and creatures that definitely lay eggs in uncomfortable places. But the truth is, we already live on a planet with an environment so extreme, so bizarre, and so poorly explored that it would qualify as science fiction if it were discovered anywhere else. The deep ocean is not just unfamiliar. It is actively opposed to human existence. It is cold, crushing, lightless, and vast beyond intuition. If an astronaut drifted down there without preparation, the ocean would not be impressed by their resume. What makes this especially strange is how close it all is. Space feels far away. It has a dramatic sense of distance. Rockets, countdowns, epic music. The ocean hides its weirdness under something we associate with vacations and postcards. It is a master of misdirection. You look out at the horizon and think you understand it, when in reality, you are staring at a vertical universe that drops for miles, straight down. No warning signs. No abandon hope signposts. Just water pretending to be shallow. Humans are surface creatures through and through. We evolved to live in air, walk on solid ground, and panic slightly when our socks get wet. Our senses are tuned for light, colour, and distance. The ocean below the surface laughs quietly at all of that. Light fades. Sound behaves strangely. Pressure becomes a physical force with opinions. Time slows. Movement changes. Everything about survival is rewritten. It is not just a different environment. It is a different rule book. And here is the part that really messes with your brain. We have sent humans to the moon. We have robots on Mars. We have telescopes that can spot galaxies billions of light years away. And yet, most of our own ocean remains unexplored. Vast regions have never been seen by human eyes. There are places down there that have existed for millions of years without a single witness, quietly doing their thing while humanity invented fire, agriculture, and reality television. If mystery were a resource, the ocean would be hoarding it. The idea of ocean zones exists because conditions change dramatically with depth. This is not just water getting wetter. Every layer brings new challenges, new physics, and new biological strategies. It is a descent not only through space, but through increasingly alien states of being. Each level strips away assumptions about how life works. Oxygen behaves differently. Food arrives differently. Bodies are built differently. Survival is solved in ways that would seem absurd anywhere else. There is also something deeply humbling about realizing how small our window of comfort really is. Humans thrive in a thin slice of the planet, a fragile layer of air and light clinging to the surface. Above us, space will freeze and suffocate us. Below us, the ocean will crush us like a soda can. With confidence, we live sandwiched between two environments that are perfectly capable of killing us instantly. And we call this balance normal. The deep ocean does not care about human timelines, expectations, or fears. It operates on geological patience. Movements are slow, changes are subtle, energy is precious. Nothing is wasted. It is a place where excess is punished and efficiency is everything, where drama is replaced by endurance, where survival is less about speed and more about simply not giving up for a very long time. So as this journey begins, the goal is simple. We are going down. Not literally, because that would require a lot of paperwork and a very brave engineer, but mentally, imaginatively, scientifically. We are peeling back the layers of the ocean to explore zones that feel more alien than outer space, using humor as a flashlight and curiosity as our oxygen supply. Because once you realize how strange the deep ocean truly is, the beach never looks quite so innocent again. The sunlight zone is the ocean pretending to be relatable. This is the part we think we know. It is where the water is blue, the waves sparkle, and the ocean feels like a friendly neighbor instead of a cosmic abyss with opinions. Light pours in from above, warming the water and illuminating everything beneath the surface. It is bright enough for plants to grow, animals to see, and humans to feel comfortable believing we understand the sea. This zone is the ocean's handshake. Polite, welcoming, slightly misleading. Sunlight penetrates only so far into water, and this upper layer is where that light still has power. Here, energy flows in a way that makes sense to us. Tiny drifting organisms use sunlight to turn carbon dioxide and water into food, forming the foundation of an enormous food web. Every larger creature here, from darting fish to massive whales passing through, depends either directly or indirectly on those microscopic producers. It is a bustling, energetic place where life moves fast and competition is constant. If the deep ocean is a slow burn, this zone is a caffeine-fueled sprint. This is also where colour exists in its full glory. Reds, yellows, blues and greens are all visible, painting coral reefs, kelp forests, and open waters with a palette that feels almost tropical. Vision matters here. Speed matters. Awareness matters. Animals rely on quick reactions and sharp senses, because food and danger are both very visible. Nothing is hiding behind darkness yet. If you mess up, everyone sees it. The sunlight zone is also where the ocean interacts most directly with the atmosphere, exchanging heat and gases. This constant interaction helps regulate Earth's climate, acting like a massive, slow-breathing system that absorbs heat and carbon. It is one of the reasons our planet does not swing wildly between extremes of temperature. The ocean, in its quiet way, is working overtime to keep things livable while never asking for credit. For humans, this zone is where we play. We swim, surf, sail, and fish here. It feels like a shared space. We build stories around it. We photograph it. We romanticize it. The sunlight zone is where people fall in love with the ocean. It is approachable. You can see your hands. You can breathe. You can pretend you belong. And because it feels so accessible, It is easy to forget that this thin layer is only the very top of something far deeper and far stranger. Life here has evolved to take advantage of abundance, but abundance comes with chaos. Food can be plentiful, but so are competitors. Predators rely on speed and coordination rather than patience. Schools of fish move like living clouds, shifting shape in an instant to confuse attackers. Larger animals travel vast distances through this zone, tracking seasonal changes and food availability with precision that puts our travel apps to shame. Motion is constant. Stillness is suspicious. Weather above the surface also shapes this world below. Storms churn the water, mixing nutrients and redistributing life. Waves and currents act like conveyor belts, moving organisms across oceans without asking their permission. For a tiny drifting creature, this is either a free vacation or an unexpected relocation. Survival often depends on flexibility. Being able to adapt quickly is not just helpful, it is mandatory. Despite all this activity, the sunlight zone is fragile. Because it is so productive and accessible, it is also heavily affected by human activity. Changes in temperature, chemistry, and clarity ripple through this layer first. Small shifts can have outsized consequences, altering food availability and reshaping entire ecosystems. The ocean's most familiar face is also the one that feels our impact most directly. And yet, standing at the surface, it is easy to miss all of this complexity. You look down and see movement, light, and life, and your brain relaxes. This feels like home. This feels understandable. The sunlight zone is the ocean's comfort zone, both for marine life and for us. It is the place where the ocean still plays by rules we recognize. But that sense of familiarity is deceptive, because just below this bright, busy layer, light begins to weaken. Colors fade. The pace changes. The rules start to bend. The sunlight zone is not the ocean's true self. It is the mask it wears before the drop. As you leave the bright comfort of the surface behind, the ocean begins its quiet transformation. The sunlight does not vanish all at once. Instead, it thins, stretches, and weakens, like a signal struggling to reach its destination. This is the twilight zone, a place suspended between day and night, where light still exists, but no longer behaves the way you expect. Everything is washed in blue, not because the ocean is blue, but because blue light is the last wavelength stubborn enough to survive the descent. It is a world that feels muted, hushed, and slightly unreal, like someone turned the contrast knob way down. Here, the idea of seeing becomes complicated. Shapes are vague. Distances are deceptive. Colors quietly surrender one by one until red is gone entirely, followed by orange and yellow. Anything that appears red might as well be wearing camouflage, because in this dim environment, red simply looks black. The ocean does not announce this change. It just happens, and suddenly the visual rules you trusted near the surface no longer apply. Animals living in the twilight zone are built for this uncertainty. Many species have enormous eyes relative to their bodies, eyes designed to gather every stray photon like desperate light collectors. These creatures are not curious or shocked, despite how they look. They are practical. In a place where light is rare, missing even a faint glow could mean missing dinner or becoming dinner. Evolution, apparently, believes bigger eyes are always the correct response to existential darkness. But not everything here relies on vision alone. Movement is slower than at the surface, and energy is more carefully managed. Food is less predictable, so creatures must be opportunistic. Some drift patiently, conserving strength. Others move just enough to intercept whatever passes by. This is not a place of frantic pursuit. It is a place of waiting, watching, and reacting at the right moment. One of the most fascinating features of the Twilight Zone is its daily rhythm. Every night, vast numbers of animals migrate upward towards shallower waters, then retreat back down before dawn. This vertical movement is one of the largest migrations on the planet, happening every single day, largely unseen by humans. Imagine billions of creatures commuting up and down the water column, like an invisible rush hour, driven by the cover of darkness and the promise of food. It is a planetary-scale routine operating quietly beneath the waves, no traffic reports required. This zone also plays a subtle but important role in how carbon moves through the ocean. As organisms feed near the surface and return to deeper waters, they transport carbon with them, locking it away below. It is a biological conveyor belt that helps regulate the planet's climate over long timescales. The Twilight Zone is not just eerie, it is functional. It is working constantly, whether we notice it or not. Temperature drops noticeably here. The warmth of the surface gives way to a colder, more stable environment. This cold slows biological processes, stretching life out over longer periods. Growth is slower. Reproduction is more deliberate. Nothing here rushes, unless it absolutely has to. The ocean, at this depth, begins teaching patience. Sound also behaves differently. Without the chaotic noise of waves and weather above, the Twilight Zone can feel acoustically vast. Low sounds travel farther, making the ocean feel larger than it already is. It is a place where vibrations matter, where subtle movements can carry meaning across surprising distances. Silence, in the human sense, does not really exist here. There is always something moving, pulsing, or shifting in the dark. For humans, this zone is deeply unsettling. We are creatures of light, and our brains are uncomfortable when visual information starts to fail. The Twilight Zone is bright enough to reveal shapes, but dark enough to hide intentions. It triggers the same instinctive unease as a foggy night or a shadowed hallway. You know something is there. You just do not know what. And that is the trick of the Twilight Zone. It feels like a transition, a warning, rather than a destination. It reminds you that the ocean is not obligated to stay friendly. This is where the familiar world begins to slip away, replaced by a version of reality that runs on different priorities. The light is fading, the colours are gone, and the ocean is gently, patiently, preparing you for what comes next. At a certain depth, the last traces of sunlight finally give up. There is no gradual fade anymore, no dim blue glow struggling to hang on. The lights are off, permanently. Welcome to the Midnight Zone, a place where the sun has never visited and never will. Darkness here is not the absence of light so much as the default setting of the universe. If you brought a flashlight, it would feel less like illumination and more like an intrusion. In this zone, pressure becomes impossible to ignore. Water weighs more than air, and when you stack miles of it on top of itself, it develops a personality. Every square inch is squeezed with a force that would instantly collapse unprotected human bodies. This pressure shapes everything. Bones, shells, and rigid structures are rare because stiffness is a liability. Flexibility is survival. Life here is built to bend, compress, and endure, as if the ocean itself is constantly hugging everything a little too hard. The midnight zone is also where one of the ocean's most astonishing tricks takes center stage: light without fire. Bioluminescence is not decoration. It is communication, deception, and survival rolled into one glowing package. Creatures here produce their own light through chemical reactions inside their bodies, creating flashes, pulses, and steady glows that cut through the darkness like underwater stars. In a place with no sunlight, making your own becomes a competitive advantage. Some animals use light as a lure, dangling glowing bait in front of their mouths to attract curious prey. Others flash patterns to confuse attackers or to disappear by matching the faint light filtering down from above, erasing their silhouette. There are species that glow to find mates, turning the ocean into a silent disco where the guest list is extremely exclusive and the music is existential dread. In the midnight zone, if something is glowing, it is probably lying to you. Food is scarce here, and scarcity drives creativity. Without plants to form the base of the food web, life relies on organic material drifting down from above. Every falling scrap matters. A single meal can be the difference between persistence and extinction. As a result, many creatures have slow metabolisms, conserving energy like it is a rare currency. Movement is minimal. Reactions are precise. Wasted effort is not forgiven. Hunting in total darkness requires senses that feel almost supernatural. Touch, pressure detection, and chemical sensing take precedence over sight. Some animals can detect the faint electrical signals produced by muscle movement, allowing them to locate prey without ever seeing it. Others are tuned to the slightest disturbances in water, reading motion the way we read text. Vision still exists, but it is often specialized, designed to detect bioluminescent flashes rather than shapes. The environment itself is remarkably stable. Temperatures here do not fluctuate wildly. There are no seasons, no storms, no waves. Time moves differently. Change happens slowly, over long stretches, making this zone feel ancient and patient. It is easy to imagine that if you could stop moving entirely, the ocean would simply continue on without acknowledging your presence. For humans, the midnight zone represents a hard limit. Our technology strains here. Materials fail. Electronics struggle. Every descent is a negotiation with physics. The deeper you go, the less forgiving the environment becomes. Space may be hostile, but at least it does not actively try to squeeze you into a smaller version of yourself. And yet, despite all this hostility, life thrives. Not abundantly, not extravagantly, but persistently. The midnight zone is proof that life does not need comfort. It needs opportunity. Give it a chemical reaction, a temperature it can tolerate, and enough time, and it will find a way. Even in a place that seems designed to erase it. There is something oddly beautiful about that. In total darkness, without sunlight, without warmth, without visibility, the ocean lights itself. Tiny sparks in the void, glowing not for beauty, but for survival. The midnight zone does not feel like Earth as we know it. It feels like another world entirely, hidden in plain sight beneath the waves, quietly glowing in the dark. Bioluminescence sounds magical, and honestly, it kind of is. It is the ability of living organisms to produce light using chemistry instead of electricity, fire, or tiny underwater light bulbs. In the dark ocean, light is not a background feature. It is a tool, a language, a weapon, a dating profile. And unlike human technology, this light runs cold. No heat, no wasted energy, just efficient glow on demand. Nature looked at flashlights and said, "Cute idea, but we can do better." At the heart of bioluminescence is a chemical reaction. Inside specialized cells, molecules interact in a precise way that releases energy as visible light. The colors can vary, but blue and green dominate because those wavelengths travel farthest through water. This is not accidental. Evolution fine-tuned the system to match the physics of the environment. The ocean does not reward artistic variety. It rewards whatever works. Different organisms use this light for very different reasons. Some flash suddenly to startle predators, creating a moment of confusion just long enough to escape. Imagine trying to sneak up on dinner and getting hit with a camera flash from a creature you did not even see. Others release glowing clouds, sacrificing a bit of their own light to distract attackers, like throwing a luminous smoke bomb and vanishing into the dark. For hunters, bioluminescence can be downright devious. Some species produce light that mimics the appearance of smaller, harmless organisms. Curious prey approach, assuming they have found food or safety, only to discover they have been professionally misled. The glow is the bait, and curiosity is the trap. In the deep ocean, trust issues are not a personality flaw, they are a survival strategy. Then there is communication. In a place where sound and touch have limits, light becomes a signal that can travel quickly and precisely. Some animals use specific flashing patterns to identify members of their own species. This avoids awkward misunderstandings that could result in wasted energy or being eaten by something significantly larger. When everything looks strange, a familiar glow can mean the difference between friend and fatal mistake. Reproduction adds another layer of complexity. For some species, bioluminescence plays a role in attracting mates. Patterns, intensities, and rhythms can all carry information. It is less about beauty and more about clarity. The message is simple. I am here. I am the right species. I am alive enough to glow, which is honestly a pretty good resume down here. Not all bioluminescent organisms make their own light from scratch. Some rely on symbiotic bacteria that live inside their bodies, producing light in exchange for nutrients and shelter. This partnership blurs the line between individual and ecosystem. The glow you see is the result of cooperation at a microscopic level. Tiny organisms working together to create something visible on a much larger scale. Bioluminescence also plays a role in camouflage, which sounds counterintuitive until you remember the ocean loves irony. Some animals produce light on their undersides to match the faint glow coming from above, erasing their shadow when viewed from below. This technique, known as counter-illumination, turns light into invisibility. It is the aquatic equivalent of blending into the background by becoming the background. For humans lucky enough to witness it, bioluminescence feels otherworldly. Disturb the water at night and watch it sparkle. Every movement triggers a cascade of glowing reactions, as if the ocean itself is responding. It is easy to forget that this beauty is not meant for us. It evolved without our eyes in mind. We are accidental spectators at a show designed for survival. What makes bioluminescence so remarkable is not just how it looks, but how widespread it is. Across many unrelated groups of organisms, the ability to produce light evolved independently. Again and again, in different lineages, life arrived at the same solution. When darkness is absolute, light becomes power. In the deep ocean, stars do not exist. There is no sky, no constellations. And yet, life created its own galaxy, one glow at a time. By the time you reach the bathypelagic zone, the ocean is no longer subtle about its intentions. This is the depth where pressure stops being an abstract concept and starts feeling personal. Water, for all its calm surface behavior, becomes incredibly assertive when stacked above itself. Every meter downward adds weight, and by the time you arrive here, the force pressing in from all sides is immense. If the surface ocean gives you a friendly wave, the bathypelagic gives you a full body hug and does not ask if you are comfortable. Pressure at this depth is measured not in mild discomfort, but in multiples of what we experience at the surface. It presses equally from every direction, leaving no escape. There is no up, down, or sideways relief. Everything is compressed, constantly, without pause. For humans, this is catastrophic. Air-filled spaces collapse. Rigid structures fail. It is not dramatic. It is immediate. The ocean does not need to raise its voice to make its point. Life here, however, treats pressure as a design constraint, not a threat. Organisms in the bathypelagic zone are built without large air spaces. Gases are minimized. Structures are flexible. Tissues are soft and resilient, able to compress without breaking. Instead of resisting pressure, life here yields to it. The goal is not to fight the ocean, but to become compatible with it. One of the biggest challenges pressure creates is at the molecular level. High pressure can interfere with how proteins fold and function. For surface life, this would cause systems to fail. Deep-sea organisms have adapted by altering the chemistry of their cells, stabilizing proteins so they continue working under conditions that would destroy most life. It is like running delicate machinery inside a hydraulic press and having it function normally. Membranes also change. The barriers that separate cells from their surroundings must remain fluid enough to function without becoming too rigid or too leaky. This requires precise adjustments to their composition, tuned specifically for life under constant compression. It is an invisible adaptation, but a critical one. Without it, cells would lose control over what enters and exits, and life would quietly fall apart. Movement in this zone reflects the cost of energy under pressure. Muscles still work, but rapid bursts of speed are rare. Many creatures move deliberately, conserving energy whenever possible. The bathypelagic is not a place for sprinting. It is a place for endurance. Every action is calculated. Nothing is wasted. Pressure also affects how materials behave. Shells and hard skeletons are less common, as rigidity becomes a liability. Flexibility allows structures to compress without shattering. This gives many animals a gelatinous appearance, which might look fragile, but is actually incredibly effective. In a high-pressure world, softness is strength. For human engineers, pressure is one of the greatest obstacles to deep ocean exploration. Designing vehicles that can withstand the bathypelagic requires thick walls, specialized materials, and careful management of internal spaces. Every window, joint, and seam becomes a potential failure point. The deeper you go, the less forgiving the environment becomes. Space may try to kill you by removing pressure. The ocean does it by adding far too much. Despite this, life persists in remarkable ways. Organisms here are not merely surviving. They are adapted, efficient, and specialized. They do not experience pressure as stress. It is simply the normal state of existence. Just as we do not feel the weight of the atmosphere crushing us, they do not feel the ocean bearing down. Normal is relative. The bathypelagic zone teaches an important lesson about life on Earth. Extreme does not mean impossible. It means different. Conditions that would instantly destroy one form of life can be perfectly comfortable for another, given the right adaptations. The ocean did not lower the pressure to accommodate life. Life rose to meet it. And as you descend through this zone, feeling the imagined weight of the water above, it becomes clear that the ocean is not just deep in distance. It is deep in challenge. The bathypelagic is where the planet stops pretending to be gentle and reminds you that gravity, physics, and chemistry are always in charge. Eventually, the descent stops feeling like falling and starts feeling like arrival. The abyssal plain is not dramatic in the way trenches or glowing creatures are. It does not loom or shimmer or flash. Instead, it stretches endlessly, a vast, flat expanse of seafloor, covering more area than any other habitat on Earth, quietly existing in the deep, like a continent that forgot to advertise itself. If the ocean had a desert, this would be it, except the sand is finer. The darkness is complete, and the silence feels heavier. This landscape is shaped by time more than anything else. Sediment drifts down from above at an almost comically slow rate, accumulating grain by grain over thousands of years. There are no waves to sculpt it, no storms to rearrange it. The abyssal plain changes so slowly that calling it static almost feels accurate. Mountains above rise and erode faster than this seafloor rearranges itself. Patience here is not a virtue. It is a requirement. Food is the defining challenge of life on the abyssal plain. There is no local production, no plants, no sunlight. Everything edible arrives from above, falling through miles of water, like leftovers from a distant party. This material, often called marine snow, consists of tiny bits of organic debris, waste, and the remains of dead organisms. It is not glamorous, but it is life-sustaining. Each particle represents energy travelling a very long way to reach the bottom. Because this food arrives unpredictably and in small amounts, animals here are adapted to scarcity. Many are slow-moving, conserving energy like it is a precious heirloom. They can go long periods without eating, waiting for the next delivery from the sky. When a larger food source does arrive, such as the remains of a large animal sinking to the seafloor, it becomes a temporary oasis. Life gathers, feeds, and then disperses again, leaving little trace behind. The creatures of the abyssal plain often have wide mouths, expandable stomachs, and flexible bodies. When food is rare, the ability to eat whatever shows up is invaluable. Picky eaters do not do well here. If it is organic and vaguely edible, it is on the menu. There is no room for culinary preferences when meals are measured in months or years. Despite the flatness, the abyssal plain is not empty. It is populated by organisms that interact with the sediment itself. Some burrow just beneath the surface, stirring the seafloor as they search for nutrients. Others crawl slowly across the top, leaving faint trails that may persist for decades in the stillness. Every movement becomes a long, lasting signature in a place where nothing rushes to erase it. Temperature in this zone is near freezing and remarkably stable. There are no daily cycles, no seasonal shifts. Time feels stretched. Biological processes slow down, extending lifespans and reducing the urgency of reproduction. Life here is not about rapid growth or constant activity. It is about persistence, about being able to exist quietly and efficiently for a very long time. From a human perspective, the abyssal plain can feel almost unsettling in its uniformity. We are used to landmarks, changes, and variety. Here, the horizon looks the same in every direction, disappearing into darkness. Navigation becomes abstract. Distance loses meaning. It is a place that challenges our sense of scale and significance. Standing here, if that were possible, you might feel very small, not because something enormous is looming over you, but because there is simply so much of nothing. Yet this apparent emptiness hides importance. The abyssal plain plays a role in storing carbon and recycling nutrients over geological timescales. What settles here can remain buried for millions of years, locking away material that would otherwise circulate through the planet's systems. It is slow, quiet work, but it matters. The abyssal plain is not flashy. It does not glow or roar. It does not rush or change quickly. It is the deep ocean stripped down to its most patient form. A reminder that survival does not always favor speed or strength. Sometimes the most successful strategy is simply to wait. One of the strangest surprises waiting in the deep ocean is scale. Not depth, not darkness, size. In a place where food is scarce and energy is precious, logic would suggest smaller bodies, less maintenance, fewer calories required, and yet scattered through the deep sea are creatures that seem to have missed that memo entirely. Giant amphipods, massive squid, oversized crustaceans drifting through the dark like they took a wrong turn from a monster movie set. This phenomenon is known as deep sea gigantism, and it flips our surface assumptions on their head. At first glance, being large in the deep ocean seems like a terrible idea. Bigger bodies require more resources, and resources are limited. But the deep sea operates on a different set of trade-offs. Cold temperatures slow metabolism dramatically. Chemical reactions inside cells happen more slowly, meaning large bodies do not burn through energy as fast as they would in warmer environments. In the deep, being big does not necessarily mean being hungry all the time. It means being efficient over long periods. Size also offers an advantage when food is unpredictable. A larger body can store more energy, allowing an organism to survive long gaps between meals. When something finally does arrive, being able to consume and store as much as possible is a major benefit. Think of it less like overeating and more like preparing for a very long, very uncertain winter. Another factor is pressure. High-pressure environments can support larger structures without the same constraints found near the surface. Buoyancy behaves differently, reducing the cost of supporting a heavy body. On land, gravity punishes size. In the deep ocean, water quietly assists it. Massive bodies can float or drift with minimal effort, turning size into a passive advantage rather than a burden. Predation also plays a role. In a place where encounters are rare, being large can reduce the number of potential threats. Fewer things are capable of attacking you, and fewer still are willing to try. Size becomes a form of defense. You do not need armor if you are simply too big to bother with. In the deep sea, intimidation does not require speed or aggression. It just requires presence. Deep-sea gigantism is not universal. It appears in some groups and not others, suggesting that it is not a single rule, but a recurring solution to similar problems. Where cold, pressure, and food scarcity intersect, larger body sizes can emerge as a stable strategy. Evolution does not chase aesthetics. It follows whatever works, even if the result looks absurd to human eyes. From our perspective, these giants feel uncanny. We are used to associating large size with dominance, visibility, and activity. In the deep sea, giants can be slow, quiet, and rarely seen. Their enormity is not about spectacle. It is about endurance. They are not sprinting predators or aggressive conquerors. They are long-term investments in survival. Studying these animals challenges how we think about biological limits. It reminds us that size is not just a product of abundance. It can also be a response to scarcity. In environments where nothing happens quickly, growth can be stretched out over long periods, accumulating mass slowly and steadily. The deep ocean rewards patience in all its forms, including physical scale. There is also something psychologically unsettling about gigantism in the dark. We are comfortable with big animals when we can see them clearly. Whales at the surface make sense. Deep-sea giants, half glimpsed in the beam of a submersible light, feel different. They emerge from nothingness, enormous and silent, then fade back into the black. It triggers the same instinctive reaction as realizing a room is much larger than you thought, but you cannot see the walls. Deep-sea gigantism is a reminder that the ocean is not just deep in distance, but deep in possibility. Remove the constraints of warmth, light, and constant activity, and life explores forms that feel almost excessive. Bigger is not always better, but sometimes, in the cold, dark quiet, it is exactly right. If the deep ocean has an underworld, the Hadal Zone is it. This is the realm of trenches, long scars carved into the seafloor where tectonic plates collide and one slides beneath another. These places plunge deeper than any other part of the ocean, reaching depths so extreme that comparing them to mountains feels almost unfair. If you dropped Mount Everest into the deepest trench, its peak would still be underwater, quietly minding its own business in the dark. The Hadal Zone is not just deeper. It is fundamentally removed from the rest of the planet. Everything about this environment sounds hostile. Pressure here is almost incomprehensible, increasing until it feels like the ocean is trying to compress reality itself. Temperatures hover near freezing. There is no light, no photosynthesis, and no steady supply of food. And yet life exists, not barely, not accidentally, actively, persistently, which makes the Hadal Zone less of a dead end and more of a biological mic drop. Trenches are not smooth or gentle. Their walls are steep, unstable, and constantly shifting due to geological activity. Earthquakes are more common here, silently reshaping the environment in ways no creature can predict. Sediment slides downward, carrying organic material with it. This makes trenches surprisingly rich compared to surrounding deep-sea areas. Gravity becomes a delivery system, funneling nutrients into the depths like a slow-motion landslide buffet. Life in the Hadal Zone takes advantage of this. Organisms here are often found in higher concentrations than in nearby deep regions, clustering where food accumulates. This is not abundance in the surface sense. It is relative opportunity in an otherwise sparse world. In the Hadal Zone, opportunity is enough. The animals that live here are specialists. Their bodies are adapted to function under pressures that would destroy most known life. Cell membranes, enzymes, and internal structures are chemically tuned to remain stable, where physics seems determined to interfere. This is not resilience through toughness, but through precision. Everything works because it has been fine-tuned to do so, down to the molecular level. Interestingly, many hadal species are closely related to creatures found at shallower depths, suggesting that life did not originate here and spread upward. It moved downward, step by step, generation by generation, adapting to increasing pressure and isolation. The hadal zone is not a cradle of life. It is a proving ground. Isolation is a defining feature of trenches. Each one is like an island, separated from others by vast expanses of less extreme seafloor. This isolation allows species to diverge, evolving independently over long periods of time. Trenches become biological laboratories, running experiments for millions of years without interruption. The results are creatures found nowhere else on Earth, living proof that isolation accelerates innovation. For humans, reaching the hadal zone is an extraordinary challenge. Only a handful of crewed missions have ever made it to these depths. Each descent requires meticulous planning, robust engineering, and an acceptance that rescue is not an option. Down here, the ocean does not forgive mistakes. It does not negotiate. It simply applies pressure and waits. And yet, the hadal zone is not chaotic. It is calm. There are no waves, no current strong enough to disturb the silence. The water is still. The darkness is complete. It is a place of extremes wrapped in quiet. This contrast is what makes it feel so alien. We associate danger with noise and violence. The hadal zone is dangerous in a more patient way. There is something deeply humbling about knowing that life thrives in places we can barely reach, under conditions we cannot endure. It challenges the idea that the habitability is narrow or fragile. Life does not require comfort. It requires consistency and time. Given enough of both, it will adapt to almost anything. The hadal zone feels like a dare because it is. It dares physics, biology, and human understanding to keep up. And every time we look deeper, it answers that dare with something alive, quietly existing where it has no business being. Life in ocean trenches does not look heroic. There are no sleek forms built for speed, no muscular silhouettes cutting through the water like torpedoes. Instead, trench creatures often look soft, delicate, and slightly unfinished, as if evolution stopped halfway and said, "Good enough." But this appearance is misleading. In the hadal depths, squishiness is not a flaw, it is a masterstroke. Rigid structures do not do well under extreme pressure. Hard shells crack. Stiff skeletons fail. Soft tissues, on the other hand, compress without breaking. Many trench animals are gelatinous, flexible, and water-rich, allowing them to exist comfortably in an environment that would pulverize more solid forms. They are not weak. They are pressure compliant. The ocean squeezes, and they simply adjust. Metabolism in these creatures is remarkably slow. Energy is precious in the trenches, and burning it quickly is a luxury no one can afford. Instead of fast movement or aggressive behavior, trench animals favor efficiency. They drift, they wait, they conserve. This slow pace is not laziness, it is optimization. Every calorie saved is a victory. Feeding strategies reflect this mindset. Many trench dwellers are opportunistic feeders, consuming whatever organic material they encounter. Some scavenge, others filter tiny particles from the sediment or water. There is no single dominant approach. The common theme is flexibility. In a place where meals are unpredictable, versatility beats specialization. Sensory systems in trench creatures are tuned to detect subtle cues. Vision, when present, is often secondary to other senses. Chemical signals, pressure changes, and minute vibrations become the primary sources of information. In a silent, dark environment, even the smallest disturbance matters. These animals are not blind to their world. They perceive it differently. Reproduction in the trenches also reflects environmental constraints. Low population densities and isolation make finding a mate difficult. Some species produce fewer offspring, but invest more in their survival. Others rely on strategies that increase the chances of reproduction without frequent encounters. The goal is not abundance, it is continuation. Trench creatures often exhibit remarkable longevity. Slow metabolisms and stable environments allow individuals to live longer lives than their shallow water relatives. Time moves differently here. Growth is gradual. Change is incremental. The trenches are not places of rapid turnover. They are places of persistence. What makes these animals especially fascinating is how normal their lives are to them. The pressure, darkness, and cold are not challenges. They are the baseline. Trench creatures are not surviving in spite of their environment. They are thriving because of it. Their adaptations are not heroic responses to danger. They are everyday solutions to a world that has always been this way. For humans observing from submersibles, trench animals can appear almost surreal. They float gently in the beam of artificial light, moving with minimal effort, seemingly unconcerned by the immense weight of water above them. There is no panic, no urgency, just existence. It is oddly calming and deeply unsettling at the same time. These creatures remind us that survival does not always favor strength, speed, or aggression. Sometimes it favors softness. Sometimes it favors slowness. Sometimes it favors doing less, not more. In the trenches, evolution has stripped life down to what is necessary and nothing else. Trench creatures are proof that there is no single blueprint for success. Life adapts not by becoming impressive, but by becoming appropriate. In the deepest places on Earth, being squishy and slow is not a disadvantage. It is the reason anything lives there at all. Just when it seems like the deep ocean has exhausted its supply of surprises, the seafloor cracks open and starts venting superheated water, like it is trying to blow off steam. Hydrothermal vents are exactly what they sound like. Places where seawater seeps into the Earth's crust, heats up near molten rock, dissolves minerals, and then erupts back into the ocean in towering plumes. These structures rise from the dark sea floor like alien chimneys, billowing clouds that look more like smoke than water. They are loud in concept, dramatic in appearance, and quietly revolutionary in what they support. The water erupting from these vents can be hundreds of degrees hot, yet it does not boil. Pressure at these depths keeps it in liquid form, creating a bizarre situation. where near freezing seawater meets scalding vent fluid just inches away. This extreme contrast forms steep chemical and temperature gradients, and where gradients exist, life finds opportunity. The vents are not oases because they are comfortable. They are oases because they are chemically useful. Unlike almost every other ecosystem on Earth, hydrothermal vent communities do not depend on sunlight as their primary energy source. There is no photosynthesis here. Instead, energy comes from chemical reactions involving minerals dissolved in the vent fluid. Hydrogen sulfide, a compound that smells like rotten eggs and would be toxic to most life, becomes fuel. This shift in energy source fundamentally rewrites the rules of ecosystems as we usually understand them. The structures themselves grow over time. As mineral-rich water cools upon contact with cold seawater, dissolved metals precipitate out, forming solid deposits. Layer by layer, these minerals build towering spires that can reach several stories tall. Vents are not permanent features. They can appear, grow, collapse, and disappear over years or decades. The landscape is dynamic, constantly reshaped by geological forces far below. Life around vents is dense compared to the surrounding deep sea. Large animals cluster near these chemical fountains, forming communities that feel almost crowded by deep ocean standards. The reason is simple. Energy is abundant here, but only if you know how to use it. Species that can tap into this chemical wealth thrive. Those that cannot stay away. The environment is harsh and unstable. Temperatures can fluctuate rapidly. Vent activity can shut down or shift without warning. Animals living here must be adaptable, capable of tolerating conditions that would be lethal elsewhere. This is not a gentle paradise. It is a high-risk, high-reward neighborhood. Hydrothermal vents also reshaped how scientists think about the origin of life. Before their discovery, it was widely assumed that sunlight was essential for life to begin. Vents proved that complex ecosystems could exist entirely independent of the sun. This opened the door to new ideas about where and how life might arise, not just on Earth, but elsewhere in the universe. If chemistry can power life here, it might do so on other worlds with similar conditions. For humans, encountering hydrothermal vents for the first time was a shock. Against all expectations, the deep ocean floor was not a barren wasteland. It was alive, active, and vibrant in its own strange way. The discovery forced a rethinking of biological limits and reminded us that Earth still has the power to surprise. There is something poetic about these systems. In the deepest darkness, far from sunlight, life gathers around heat and chemistry, thriving in the glow of the planet's internal energy. Hydrothermal vents are a reminder that life is not loyal to light. It is loyal to opportunity. In a world where everything above is cold, dark, and sparse, these underwater volcanoes act like beacons, fueling ecosystems that should not exist, but absolutely do. Nature's original power plants hum quietly in the deep, turning stone, heat, and chemistry into life. To understand chemosynthesis, you have to let go of one of the most deeply ingrained assumptions we have about life on Earth, that food begins with sunlight. On the surface, this idea feels unquestionable. Plants capture light, turn it into energy, and everything else lines up to eat them or eat something that ate them. It is neat. It is logical. It is also completely ignored in parts of the deep ocean, where the sun might as well be a myth. Chemosynthesis is the process that replaces sunlight with chemistry. Instead of using light to build organic matter, certain bacteria use chemical energy stored in compounds like hydrogen sulfide, methane, or hydrogen. These chemicals would be poisonous or useless to most life, but to these microbes, they are a buffet. By oxidizing these compounds, the bacteria release energy and use it to convert carbon dioxide into organic molecules. In simple terms, they make food out of toxicity. It is alchemy, just without the medieval robes. What makes chemosynthesis remarkable is not just that it works, but that it supports entire ecosystems. These bacteria form the base of food webs that include much larger animals, many of which cannot survive without them. In places where chemosynthesis dominates, bacteria are not just background players. They are the foundation, the chefs, and the grocery store all at once. Some chemosynthetic bacteria live freely, forming mats or clouds in the water or on surfaces. Others take the idea of teamwork much further by forming intimate partnerships with animals. In these relationships, bacteria live inside specialized tissues of their hosts, safely tucked away like microscopic tenants. The host provides access to chemicals and a stable environment. The bacteria provide food. It is a biological business arrangement that has been working for millions of years. In these partnerships, animals do not need to eat in the traditional sense. Their internal bacteria handle the food production, turning chemical energy directly into nourishment. Digestive systems are often reduced or absent because they are simply unnecessary. When your meals are being cooked internally at the cellular level, a stomach becomes optional. Chemosynthesis also changes how energy flows through an ecosystem. Instead of energy arriving from above, it emerges from below or from within the earth itself. This flips the typical ecological pyramid upside down. Life is no longer oriented toward the surface. It is anchored to chemistry, geology, and the slow movement of elements through the planet. The pace of chemosynthetic systems is different as well. Chemical reactions can be steady and long-lasting, providing a reliable energy source over extended periods. This stability allows communities to persist in places where food scarcity would otherwise make life impossible. It is not abundance in the surface sense, but it is consistency. And in extreme environments, consistency is priceless. Chemosynthesis has also expanded our understanding of where life might exist beyond Earth. If organisms can build ecosystems without sunlight, then planets and moons, once dismissed as lifeless, suddenly become interesting. Anywhere with liquid, chemical gradients, and energy could, in theory, support similar processes. The deep ocean does not just redefine dinner, it redefines possibility. What is especially striking is how invisible this process is to us. There are no green leaves, no forests, no obvious signs of production. The work happens at the microscopic level, quietly and constantly. Entire communities are fed by reactions we cannot see, carried out by organisms too small to notice individually. It is a reminder that the most important processes on Earth are often the least flashy. Chemosynthesis also challenges our sense of what is natural. We tend to associate toxicity with danger and death. In these systems, toxicity is opportunity. What poisons one organism becomes nourishment for another. Nature does not assign moral value to chemicals. It assigns function. In the deep ocean, chemosynthesis is not a backup plan. It is a primary strategy. It proves that life is not dependent on a single energy source, but on adaptability. When sunlight disappears, chemistry steps in, and dinner it turns out, does not need a sun at all. In the deep ocean, hunting is not a chase. It is not a dramatic pursuit across open space with teeth bared and fins pumping. That kind of behavior burns energy, makes noise, and assumes you can actually see where you are going. None of those assumptions hold up in the deep. Down here, predators are patient, subtle, and deeply uninterested in cardio. Hunting is about waiting, listening, and striking only when success is nearly guaranteed. Without reliable light, vision becomes an optional sense rather than a dominant one. Instead, deep-sea predators rely on a suite of alternative inputs to build a picture of their surroundings. Vibrations ripple through water incredibly well, carrying information about movement, size, and distance. Even a slight twitch from a nearby animal can announce its presence like a whispered confession. For a predator tuned to these signals, darkness is not blindness. It is just a different kind of awareness. Chemical cues are equally important. The ocean is a chemical soup, and every living thing leaves a trail. Deep-sea predators can detect faint traces of organic compounds drifting through the water, allowing them to track prey they have never seen. Smell becomes a long-range radar, guiding hunters toward opportunity in a world where encounters are rare. When food is scarce, the ability to follow a chemical breadcrumb trail is invaluable. Because energy is limited, deep-sea predators often rely on ambush rather than pursuit. They position themselves strategically and wait, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. Movement is minimal, reducing the chance of being detected and conserving energy. When prey finally wanders close enough, the attack is sudden and decisive. There is no warning, no dramatic build-up, just a brief moment of action followed by stillness once again. Many predators in the deep have expandable jaws and stomachs, allowing them to consume prey nearly as large as themselves. When meals are unpredictable, it makes sense to take full advantage of every opportunity. Passing up a large meal, because it is inconveniently sized, is not a luxury the deep ocean allows. If you catch it, you eat it. Sorting it out later is tomorrow's problem. Speed is less important than timing. Reflexes are sharp, but movements are economical. Muscles are built for short bursts rather than sustained effort. This is not about winning races. It is about winning moments. A single, successful strike can fuel survival for a long time. Deep-sea predators also have to be careful. In a world where everyone is conserving energy, mistakes are costly. Chasing the wrong signal or attacking the wrong target wastes precious resources. As a result, many predators are highly selective, responding only to specific cues that indicate a high probability of success. They are not aggressive by nature. They are calculated. There is also an eerie equality to predation in the deep. The same darkness that hides prey also hides predators. Everyone is operating with incomplete information. This creates a delicate balance where detection and deception are in constant tension. The predator must reveal just enough of itself to attack, while the prey must avoid revealing anything at all. It is a quiet arms race, fought in silence. From a human perspective, deep-sea predators challenge our idea of what a hunter looks like. They are not always fast or intimidating in the traditional sense. Some look fragile. Others barely move. But effectiveness here is not about appearance. It is about efficiency. A successful predator in the deep ocean is one that wastes nothing, rushes nothing, and miscalculates nothing. Watching these animals in their natural environment can feel unsettling. There is no build-up, no warning music, just a sudden shift from stillness to action and back again. It reminds us that drama is a human preference, not a biological requirement. In the deep sea, hunting is a waiting game played in the dark. And the predators who win are the ones who understand that patience, not power, is the sharpest weapon of all. Reproduction in the deep ocean is not romantic. There are no elaborate courtship dances, no colourful displays meant to impress from across the room. In fact, in much of the deep sea, there is no room, no audience, and no guarantee you will ever meet another member of your own species. When population densities are low and the environment is vast, reproduction becomes less about attraction and more about logistics. The deep ocean does not reward subtlety. It rewards certainty. Finding a mate in this environment is one of the greatest challenges life faces. Imagine drifting in darkness, where encounters are rare, movement is slow, and energy is limited. You cannot wander endlessly in search of love. That would be biologically irresponsible. Instead, evolution has produced strategies that ensure reproduction happens whenever possible, even if those strategies seem extreme or unsettling by surface standards. One solution is to make encounters count. Some deep-sea species reproduce by releasing large numbers of eggs and sperm into the water, relying on sheer probability. Timing is critical. Chemical cues and environmental signals help synchronize these events so that reproductive cells meet in the vastness. It is not precise, but it is efficient enough to work when direct contact is unlikely. Other species take a more direct approach. In some cases, males and females are dramatically different in size and role. Males may be tiny compared to females, investing almost all their energy into finding and attaching to a mate. Once they succeed, the problem of separation disappears entirely. The male becomes a permanent partner, ensuring that reproduction can occur whenever conditions allow. It is not poetic, but it is practical. This extreme form of attachment solves multiple problems at once. It guarantees access to a mate. It reduces the energy cost of searching, and it ensures reproductive compatibility. In an environment where encounters are rare and fleeting, permanence becomes an advantage. The deep ocean values reliability over romance. There are also species that reproduce without the need for frequent mating at all. Some can store genetic material for extended periods, using it when conditions are favorable. Others reproduce in ways that reduce dependence on finding a partner, increasing the odds of continuation in an unpredictable world. These strategies emphasize flexibility and foresight over immediacy. Reproductive timing is another critical factor. Many deep-sea organisms synchronize reproduction with environmental cues that are subtle but consistent. Changes in currents, chemistry, or food availability can signal the right moment. By aligning reproductive efforts with periods of relative abundance, offspring have a better chance of survival. In a place where resources are scarce, timing is everything. Parental investment varies widely. Some species produce many offspring with minimal care, betting on numbers. Others produce fewer offspring, but provide more protection or resources. Both approaches can succeed, depending on the specific challenges of the environment. The deep sea does not enforce a single solution. It tests many and keeps what works. What makes deep sea reproduction so fascinating is how unapologetically it prioritizes success over aesthetics. Strategies that might seem grotesque or uncomfortable to humans are simply efficient responses to environmental constraints. There is no moral judgment in evolution, only outcomes. For humans observing these systems, it can be tempting to project our own values onto them. But deep-sea reproduction is not about love, bonding, or choice. It is about continuity, about ensuring that life persists in a place where existence itself is a challenge. The goal is not happiness, it is survival across generations. These reproductive strategies remind us that biology is endlessly creative when pushed to extremes. When the environment removes familiar options, life invents new ones. The deep ocean does not just stretch the limits of physiology. It stretches the limits of what we consider normal. In the darkness, far from the surface, reproduction becomes a problem to be solved, not a story to be told. And the solutions, however strange they may seem, are proof that life will go to extraordinary lengths to continue. In the deep ocean, hurry is a liability. Speed costs energy, and energy is the one thing no one has to spare. This is a world defined not by action, but by restraint. Cold temperatures seep into everything, slowing chemical reactions, muscle movement, and even the passage of time as experienced by living cells. The result is a place where life unfolds at a pace that would feel glacial to surface dwellers. And that is exactly the point. Cold has a profound effect on biology. As temperatures drop, metabolic processes slow. Enzymes work more deliberately. Cells divide less frequently. Growth stretches out over long spans of time. In the deep ocean, this cold is constant, creating a stable but unforgiving environment. There are no warm seasons to boost productivity, no sudden bursts of abundance to exploit. Life adapts by dialing everything down and learning to wait. Scarce food reinforces this slow rhythm. When meals are unpredictable and infrequent, burning energy quickly is reckless. Deep-sea organisms have evolved to minimize waste at every level. Their metabolisms are tuned to sip energy rather than gulp it. They move only when necessary. They grow slowly. They repair themselves carefully. Every calorie is treated like a long-term investment rather than spending money. This slowness affects lifespan in surprising ways. Many deep-sea species live far longer than their shallow water relatives. With fewer predators, stable conditions, and slow metabolisms, bodies age more gradually. Damage accumulates slowly. Time stretches. In the deep, longevity is not about resilience to chaos. It is about existing in a world where chaos rarely happens. Reproduction is also influenced by this slow life strategy. Instead of frequent reproductive cycles, many species reproduce less often, investing more energy into each event. Growth from offspring to adult can take years or even decades. This extended development allows organisms to mature carefully, building bodies suited for long-term survival rather than rapid turnover. Movement in the deep ocean reflects this philosophy. Animals drift, hover, or crawl with minimal effort. Bursts of speed are rare and purposeful. There is no rushing toward opportunity. Opportunity arrives when it arrives. The deep ocean teaches that patience is not passive. It is active restraint. Even healing and regeneration happen slowly. Injuries take longer to repair, but they also occur less frequently. With fewer aggressive encounters and stable surroundings, the need for rapid recovery is reduced. Life here trades responsiveness for reliability. From a human perspective, this pace can feel unsettling. we associate slowness with weakness or inefficiency. But in the deep ocean, slowness is optimization. It is the most efficient response to conditions where speed offers no advantage. The environment rewards those who can endure rather than those who can accelerate. The slow life of the deep ocean also alters how ecosystems function. Change happens gradually. Populations fluctuate over long timescales. Recovery from disturbance can take decades or longer. This makes deep-sea environments particularly sensitive to sudden disruptions. When everything is built around patience, shocks are harder to absorb. There is a quiet elegance to this way of living. Without urgency, life becomes about balance, about maintaining internal stability in an external world that rarely changes. The deep ocean is not stagnant, it is steady, and steadiness in extreme environments is a form of success. The slow life challenges our assumptions about what it means to thrive. It shows that growth does not have to be rapid, and activity does not have to be constant. In the deep ocean, survival is measured not in speed or strength, but in persistence. Patience here is not learned. It is encoded, written into cells by cold, scarcity, and time. The deep ocean does not rush, and neither does the life that calls it home. In the deep ocean, silence is never truly silent. It only feels that way because humans are listening with the wrong senses. Sound behaves very differently underwater, and once light disappears, it becomes one of the most important ways information moves through the environment. Water carries sound faster and farther than air, transforming the deep sea into a vast acoustic world where a single noise can ripple across enormous distances long after the source has vanished. Unlike light, which is easily absorbed, sound waves move efficiently through water because its molecules are tightly packed. This density allows vibrations to travel with minimal energy loss. In practical terms, that means a sound made in one place can be detected far away, especially in the deep ocean, where there are no waves, wind, or surface chaos to interfere. The deeper you go, the quieter it becomes in the human sense. But acoustically, the ocean opens up. Certain layers of the ocean act like sound highways, and bending and channeling sound waves so they can travel astonishing distances. A noise produced in one region can curve through the water and reappear hundreds or even thousands of miles away. To a creature tuned to these frequencies, the ocean is not empty. It is spacious and resonant, filled with distant signals echoing through the dark. For deep-sea animals, sound is not just background noise, it is information. Low-frequency sounds can reveal movement, size, and direction. Vibrations created by swimming, feeding, or interacting with the environment leave acoustic footprints. Animals sensitive to these cues can build a mental map of their surroundings without ever seeing them. In a world without light, sound provides shape. Some species produce sound intentionally. These noises can serve as communication, warnings, or territorial signals. Because sound travels so far, it allows animals to interact without being physically close, reducing the need for energy-expensive movement. In the deep ocean, calling out is often safer and more efficient than going to look. Other sounds are unintentional, but equally informative. The creak of shifting sediment, the distant rumble of geological activity, or the movement of large animals all contribute to the ocean's acoustic landscape. The deep sea is filled with subtle noise, a constant low-level hum that reflects the planet's internal activity. Earth, it turns out, is not a quiet planet. It just whispers most of the time. For animals adapted to this environment, silence itself can be a signal. A sudden absence of sound may indicate danger or disruption. Stillness can be as meaningful as noise. This sensitivity makes the deep ocean an environment where every vibration matters. There is no such thing as a harmless sound. Everything carries information. Humans experience this acoustic world very differently. Our ears are built for air, not water, and our brains are poorly equipped to interpret underwater sound naturally. When we descend into the deep ocean using technology, we often describe it as eerily quiet, but that perception is misleading. We are not hearing silence. We are missing context. Human-made noise introduces a new variable into this system. Sound from ships, machinery, and exploration equipment travels efficiently through deep water, spreading far beyond its source. To animals accustomed to a relatively stable acoustic environment, these new sounds can be confusing or disruptive. The deep ocean evolved around predictable natural noise, not mechanical intrusion. What makes sound in the deep ocean especially fascinating is its permanence. Unlike light, which vanishes instantly when a source is removed, sound lingers. Echoes bounce, fade, and overlap. The ocean remembers noise for a while. This creates an environment where the past is always faintly present, layered beneath the present moment. There is something almost poetic about this. In total darkness, with minimal movement, the ocean communicates through vibration. Life listens rather than watches. It senses rather than sees. The deep ocean is not blind. It is attentive. Sound turns distance into connection. It allows organisms, separated by vast stretches of water, to remain aware of one another's existence. In the deep, where encounters are rare and space is immense, that connection matters. So while the deep ocean may look empty and feel silent to us, it is neither. It is a place where whispers can travel for miles, where stillness carries meaning, and where listening is often more important than looking. For all our confidence as a species, the deep ocean humbles us fast. Humans have crossed continents, split atoms, and left boot prints on another world. Yet when it comes to our own planet, there is a massive blind spot that begins just a few hundred meters below the surface. The deep sea covers most of Earth, and we have explored only a tiny fraction of it directly. Not metaphorically tiny, actually tiny. The kind of tiny that makes you clear your throat and quietly reassess how much you think you know. It is often said that we have better maps of the moon than of the ocean floor. And that statement is not just a clever line. It reflects a genuine imbalance in our exploration priorities and capabilities. Mapping the moon is comparatively straightforward. It does not move. It does not crush your equipment. It does not corrode your sensors. The deep ocean, on the other hand, is dark, pressurized, corrosive, and actively resistant to being observed. It is not impressed by our curiosity. Early deep-sea exploration was limited to crude methods. Weighted lines, dredges, and nets scraped the seafloor blindly. bringing up fragments of life without context. We knew things lived down there, but we had little idea how they interacted or what their environments looked like. It was like trying to understand a forest by dragging a rake through it and guessing based on what got stuck. The development of crude submersibles marked a turning point. For the first time, humans could descend into the deep ocean and see it directly. These missions were rare, expensive and risky, but they changed everything. Seeing the deep sea with human eyes revealed complexity, structure, and life where none was expected. It also revealed just how difficult this kind of exploration really is. Every descent is a carefully managed confrontation with physics. Uncrewed vehicles expanded our reach even further. Remotely operated and autonomous systems can stay down longer, go deeper, and take greater risks than humans ever could. They map, sample, photograph, and record, slowly filling in pieces of a puzzle that is still mostly missing. But even with these tools, coverage is sparse. The ocean is vast, and our resources are finite. One of the biggest challenges is scale. The deep ocean is not just deep, it is wide. Mapping it in detail requires time, energy, and technology on a massive scale. Each expedition, covers a tiny area relative to the whole. Discoveries are often isolated, leaving scientists to wonder how representative they really are. Every answer raises new questions. There is also the issue of access. Deep sea exploration is expensive, technically demanding, and logistically complex. Only a handful of countries and institutions have the ability to conduct it regularly. As a result, much of the deep ocean remains unseen, not because it lacks interest, but because it lacks infrastructure. Despite these limitations, what we have seen has been enough to change our understanding of Earth. Entire ecosystems have been discovered in places once thought lifeless. New species are found almost every time we look somewhere new. Geological features reshape our models of how the planet works. The deep ocean is not a static backdrop. It is active, dynamic, and influential. There is a strange irony in all of this. We often imagine exploration as outward, toward distant stars and planets. But one of the most unexplored frontiers lies beneath our own feet. It does not require faster rockets or interstellar travel. It requires patience, engineering, and a willingness to descend into darkness rather than escape it. Human exploration of the deep sea is still in its early chapters. We are mapping outlines, not details, sketching borders, not filling in stories. The more we explore, the more we realize how much remains hidden. And perhaps that is part of the appeal. In a world that often feels overexplored and overexplained, the deep ocean remains genuinely mysterious. Not because we lack curiosity, but because the environment demands respect. It reminds us that Earth is still capable of keeping secrets. The moon may be mapped in detail, but the deep sea still waits. Vast, dark, and largely unknown, it remains one of the last places on our planet where discovery is not just possible, but guaranteed. When people imagine extreme engineering challenges, they usually picture rockets, vacuum, and the cold emptiness of space. Space feels hostile in a dramatic, cinematic way. The deep ocean, by comparison, looks calm and familiar. It is just water, after all. How hard could it be? The answer is deeply, profoundly hard, because water is not empty. It is heavy, persistent, and completely uninterested in accommodating delicate machinery. In space, the primary challenge is keeping pressure in. In the deep ocean, the challenge is keeping pressure out. Every meter downward adds more force, and that force pushes from all directions at once. There is no single weak spot. Every seam, every bolt, every microscopic imperfection becomes a potential failure. The ocean does not need an opening. It will happily make one. This pressure affects materials in ways that are counterintuitive. Metals that are strong on land can deform or crack under constant compression. Glass, which seems solid and reliable, becomes a liability unless it is thick and carefully shaped. Even tiny air pockets inside materials can collapse violently. Engineers designing deep-sea technology must think three-dimensionally, accounting for forces that never let up. Electronics face their own problems. Water is excellent at finding its way into places it does not belong. And salt water is particularly good at ruining circuitry. Housings must be perfectly sealed, not just against leaks, but against long-term exposure. One microscopic flaw can mean total failure. And once something fails at depth, fixing it is rarely an option. There is no pulling over for repairs. Temperature adds another layer of difficulty. Cold slows chemical reactions, affects battery performance, and changes how materials behave. Lubricants thicken. Plastics become brittle. Systems that function perfectly at the surface may behave unpredictably in the deep. Every component must be tested and tested again under conditions that are expensive and difficult to reproduce. Communication is another hurdle. Radio waves, which we rely on for most long-distance communication, do not travel well through water. This limits how machines can be controlled and how data can be transmitted. Many deep-sea vehicles must operate semi-autonomously, making decisions without constant human input. Once deployed, they are largely on their own, navigating an environment that cannot be seen directly. Movement is also challenging. Water resistance increases with pressure and density, making propulsion energy intensive. Thrusters must be powerful enough to move against this resistance, yet efficient enough to conserve limited power. Every movement is a trade-off between control and endurance. Contrast this with space, where movement, once achieved, is relatively easy. There is no resistance, no corrosion, no crushing force constantly testing every component. Space is dangerous, but it is clean in its danger. The deep ocean is messy. It presses, seeps, corrodes, and interferes. It is an environment that actively interacts with technology rather than simply surrounding it. Perhaps the most difficult aspect is reliability. Deep-sea missions are expensive and rare. There is little margin for error. Systems must work the first time, often after long periods of inactivity. Redundancy is essential, but redundancy adds weight and complexity, which introduces new challenges. It is a delicate balance where every solution creates new problems. Despite these obstacles, humans continue to push deeper. Advances in materials science, engineering, and robotics slowly expand what is possible. Each successful mission represents not just scientific progress, but an engineering victory over one of the harshest environments on Earth. The struggle between technology and pressure is a reminder that exploration is not just about curiosity, it is about respect for the environment being explored. The deep ocean does not yield easily. It demands precision, patience, and humility. Water does not politely step aside for machines. It presses in, tests limits, and waits for mistakes. And that is why, in many ways, exploring the deep ocean is harder than leaving the planet. When scientists imagine life beyond Earth, they do not start with little green humanoids waving hello. They start with environments, temperature, pressure, chemistry, energy sources. And when you look for Earth environments that come closest to these extreme, unfamiliar conditions, the deep ocean rises to the top of the list. It is dark, cold, pressurized, and chemically diverse. In other words, it already feels alien, which makes it the perfect training ground for thinking about life elsewhere. The key lesson from the deep ocean is that life does not require conditions that feel comfortable to humans. It requires stability, energy, and time. Remove sunlight, and life finds chemical energy. Increase pressure, and life adjusts its molecular machinery. Lower temperatures, and life slows its metabolism. None of these changes break biology. They simply reshape it. That realization is critical when we start asking whether life could exist beyond Earth. This is why scientists pay such close attention to deep-sea adaptations when considering places like the subsurface oceans of icy moons. Worlds such as Europa or Enceladus are covered in ice, hiding vast liquid oceans beneath. There is no sunlight there, but there may be chemical energy, heat from geological activity, and liquid water. Sound familiar? The deep ocean has already shown that such conditions are not only survivable, but capable of supporting complex ecosystems. Deep sea life also challenges our visual expectations. Many organisms lack hard skeletons, vibrant colors, or recognizable forms. They are shaped by function, not familiarity. This is an important reminder that extraterrestrial life, if it exists, may not resemble anything we intuitively recognize as alive. It may not move quickly, glow dramatically, or look symmetrical. It may simply persist, quietly, efficiently, and successfully. Another important lesson comes from how isolated deep-sea environments can be. Trenches, vents, and other extreme habitats act like islands, separated by vast distances. Life evolves independently in these pockets, leading to unique solutions to similar problems. This mirrors what might happen on other worlds, where isolated environments could foster diverse forms of life shaped by local conditions. Deep-sea ecosystems also demonstrate that life can thrive without direct contact with the surface. Energy and nutrients can circulate entirely within hidden systems, disconnected from the world above. This expands our definition of habitable zones. Life does not need to exist on a planet's surface to matter or to be complex. It can exist below, out of sight, sustained by internal processes. From a scientific perspective, studying deep-sea life helps refine the tools and techniques used to search for extraterrestrial organisms. Instruments designed to detect chemical signatures, measure energy gradients, and identify signs of biological activity are tested in Earth's deep oceans. If we can recognize life there, we improve our chances of recognizing it elsewhere. There is also a philosophical shift that comes with these comparisons. The deep ocean teaches us to abandon human-centered thinking. It reminds us that life is not obligated to be fast, large, intelligent, or communicative in ways we understand. It only needs to be effective in its environment. This humility is essential when searching for life beyond Earth. Interestingly, the more we learn about the deep ocean, the less alien it feels. Patterns emerge. Rules reveal themselves. Life adapts in consistent ways when faced with similar constraints. This suggests that while extraterrestrial life may look unfamiliar, it may still follow recognizable principles. Physics and chemistry do not change from planet to planet. In this way, the deep ocean becomes a bridge between Earth and the cosmos. It is a place where the boundaries of biology are stretched, not broken, where life demonstrates its flexibility without abandoning its fundamentals. Studying Earth's depths is not just about understanding our own planet. It is about preparing ourselves to recognize life when we encounter it somewhere else. The ocean, in all its darkness and pressure, quietly reminds us that the universe may be far more alive than we imagine, just not in ways we expect. It is easy to look up at the night sky and feel a sense of awe. Stars, galaxies, endless black space. Our imaginations naturally drift outward toward distant worlds and alien landscapes. But after traveling through the layers of the ocean, one uncomfortable truth settles in. We did not have to leave Earth to find something truly strange. We just had to stop standing on the shoreline and start thinking vertically. The ocean is not a single place. It is a stacked universe, layered with environments that change dramatically as you descend. Each zone rewrites the rules of survival in its own way. Light fades, pressure rises, temperatures drop, and life responds with solutions that feel more like science fiction than biology. And yet, all of it exists right here, beneath waters we often treat as a backdrop rather than a frontier. What makes this realization powerful is not just the weirdness of deep sea life, but the familiarity of its location. We swim, surf, and sail above worlds that operate on principles completely different from our own. The waves that look calm and inviting from above hide realms where darkness is permanent. Patience is a survival trait, and biology bends without breaking. It is humbling to realize how close these worlds are, and how rarely we think about them. The ocean's zones also force us to reconsider what we mean by normal. At the surface, we define normal by what we experience daily. Sunlight, warmth, rapid movement, clear vision. But these conditions are the exception, not the rule. Most of our planet exists in environments far removed from human comfort. Life did not evolve for us. We evolved for a narrow slice of what Earth offers. There is a quiet lesson in that. The deep ocean does not announce itself. It does not demand attention. It simply exists, vast and persistent, regardless of whether we look. That indifference is part of what makes it feel alien. It reminds us that our perspective is limited, and that reality is larger than our experience of it. As we push technology forward and expand our ability to explore, the deep ocean continues to surprise us. Not because it is changing, but because we are finally paying attention. Every descent reveals something unexpected. Not monsters, but adaptations. Not chaos, but systems. Not emptiness, but life, thriving under constraints that once seemed impossible. There is also a responsibility that comes with this understanding. The deep ocean is not just a curiosity. It plays a role in regulating Earth's climate, cycling nutrients, and supporting life on a planetary scale. Its slow rhythms and stable environments make it both resilient and vulnerable. Disruption there does not make headlines, but it echoes for a very long time. Perhaps the most important takeaway is a shift in how we think about exploration. We often frame discovery as an outward journey toward new planets and distant stars. But exploration can also be inward, downward, and reflective. It can involve re-examining the world we thought we knew and admitting that we barely scratched the surface. The ocean's zones show us that alien worlds do not require faster rockets or distant telescopes. They require curiosity and humility. They require us to acknowledge that mystery still exists on our own planet, quietly waiting beneath familiar horizons. So the next time you stand by the sea, watching waves roll in, remember what lies below. Not just water, but layers of reality stacked one beneath another. Worlds shaped by pressure, darkness, chemistry, and time. Worlds that feel more alien than outer space, not because they are far away, but because they are hidden in plain sight. In the end, the ocean teaches us something profound. The unknown is not always distant. Sometimes it is right beneath our feet, waiting for us to look down instead of up.